We're rolling with Mr. Julian Flenory.
My man.
Future 247 heavyweight champ. What are we talking? What are we talking here, Julian?
Trying to figure that out now that I'm finally healthy, coming back from that surgery and stuff from my last fight. So right now it's getting healthy, figuring out things like I talked to Isaac about as far as like moving in what direction.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not sure. Could be a title fight, could be a pro debut.
Nice.
I know the role of Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I've been
It's
acknowledged.
crazy.
Maybe to talk to Serb or something about that. But regardless, I mean, the recovery from my injury is 4 to 6 months. I'm just at like the 5-month mark. So it's like I've been training the past month and I can tell I've been progressively getting more into it.
Nice.
Week by week. So here in the next like month, I'd say I'm going to have to really put some thought into what the next step is for me.
That's sick, man. So for people listening, I was kidding with that future 247 heavy. Like I said it kind of seriously, so I didn't want people to think
I
like,
love a belt, man. I love a belt.
I didn't want people to think like, oh, they got a title fight for Julian Book. No, like he's still recovering. Tore your bicep in that 9-second win against Sheldon Nyoff at Flood City Fight Night 2. That like. It put a damper on the evening for us because it was like this, awesome win. But meanwhile, your biceps like hanging off your, like it was very obvious that you tore your bicep.
I should have put a shirt on post-fight interview. I usually do. I kind of mind blinked on that. And I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's just,
it's
looks
like,
rough.
Well, he got hurt and won't be back for a while. Yeah. Because we probably talked about it with you. We talk about it with ourselves all the time. Like, you versus Dan Albright was the fight for the belt. Like he had been the Mat Factory killer, and now you're like the Mat Factory final boss. You know what I mean? Like,
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, the way it's going, I was like, dude, that's the fight. And then your biceps hanging off the bone, and we're like, oh shit, like that's not happening.
Especially after that 9-second, if I came out of there clean, it was going to be a quick turnaround.
Made perfect sense. He just beat Pippins earlier on that card. Like, yeah, it was perfect. But that's MMA, dude. Things don't always work out. But the good news is, you're feeling better now. Like you're looking forward to getting back after it. I think you mentioned maybe grappling even. This is...
Yeah, I definitely want to try to get some grappling events in, get some maybe boxing. It just depends. Like get like a variety of stuff. I actually wanted to get on a kickboxing match, but the timetable didn't work out with Stout, like for me as far as coming back from injury.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I definitely want to do some things with an injury that, because most people don't know, or the ones that do know, I've played multiple sports since I was 4 years old, and I've only had 2 injuries in my life, and both of them have happened in the past 2 years.
That's crazy.
So with this one being the most severe one I've ever had, and it's not like it was like a knee or something crazy, but it's like, I definitely want to recuperate, get like I've been strength and conditioning, training,
no doubt,
and just taking it.
I mean, it's still pretty serious. Did you need surgery? Did you get surgery?
Oh yeah,
right away, right? Like pretty.
Yeah, about like 2.5 weeks after it happened. The closer to you get the surgery done, you have to get it between that 2 to 3 week time frame, I guess. So there's like long lasting effects that can be bad.
That's scary, man. But like, shout out to everybody you have around you. Like, I'm sure Isaac made sure you were seeing the best people.
I saw some good people for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge blessing. All you guys at the Mat Factory having somebody like that in your corner. Obviously we can look at his. We made 2 of those Hall of Fame plaques so that we could keep.
I saw that when I came in. I didn't.
You
know
thought we stole it from Isaac?
I didn't know. I was like, you gave it to him and took it back because it was very nice. So.
We like, nah, dude, that was all for show. We're keeping this. Like, this is our. No, we made 2 of them because we want to. When we induct everybody, we eventually want to like have them displayed here at the studio.
That'll be nice.
Yeah,
That'll
have a little. Cool. 247 Hall of Fame in studio. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a guy like that in your corner, dude, just what does Isaac do for you? I'm not even talking as an athlete, just as a person. What's he like? I mean,
there's a lot, and there's a lot of little things that you can't necessarily pinpoint. But I mean, for me, he's helped me with so much as far as like when I was graduating from Clarion University and I was living up in that area. And coming down to the Mat Factory, still training hard and stuff like that. And Isaac owns apartments, and he actually like hooked me up. So like I'm like, I'm at the gym, hooked me up with housing near the Mat Factory, so I can don't have to drive an hour and a half from Clarion to the Mat Factory to train. So I'm closer. Hooked me up with my current job. I mean, he does that with more people than I can name or count. So it's like outside of fighting. I mean, even with and he's a chiropractor too.
Which
he
is
helps
nuts.
with,
It doesn't
helps
make
with the
any
body,
sense.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
after he destroys it at practice.
Dude.
But I mean, just a lot of things, mental tips, advice and stuff like that. I mean, the list goes on and on, honestly.
Dude, there's that's one of the best 1-2 combo of businesses I've ever seen in my life. The mat factory's right here and rehab center's attached in the same building. Like, go get your body messed up and then go next door to get it adjusted.
Right,
It's so
right,
there's a
yeah.
place near where I live now. I guess the address is probably McKeesport, and I think the place is even shut down. But the only building I've ever seen do something better than that was a diabetes clinic attached to an ice cream shop.
That's just wrong.
It's called like Walk Right or so. It's like for diabetic feet. You know, like I guess feet are a big thing when you get diabetes. Anyway, I'm like, it's ice cream and diabetes. Like, what a perfect one, too. Like,
Temptation's bad right there. It's right in your face
how
as you're
mean
trying to
is
do
that?
better for yourself.
How mean is that? I saw that. I was just dying. But yeah, dude, Isaac's a sensational human being, to say the least. You know, we inducted him, obviously, into our Hall of Fame, and just working with him, working with all you guys. That's one thing that, like, when there's a mat factory guy on our card, we know the paperwork's getting done. We know they're making weight. We know they're going to be ready to go. Like, there's never a worry with the mat factory guys. So what's it like being in that room on a daily basis with everybody? The talent at that place is absurd across all weight classes.
Well, if you've been to the gym, you know it's not the biggest gym.
Right.
So you're all in there, and it's a grinder. I mean, you're just starting with a Russian warm-up. You're getting a very intense warm-up. Then you're going into hand fighting and drilling, which it's not very... I've trained at many gyms in the area where they start with a more relaxed, like, warm-up, and then they get into some stretches and some technique. It's like our technique's like in the middle of practice, and you get like an intense warm-up, hand fighting, good build-up, and then you're getting into some drilling. And with everyone there, I mean, we obviously go by weight classes, size, and stuff like that. And with it being so stacked, I mean, there's no... You can come in there at any weight, and you're going to get good work, whether you're just a grappler, or you're an MMA fighter, whatever it is.
Right.
And he does a real good job of coordinating things, like having people spaced out, learning different techniques, learning what they need to learn. It's not always a practice where everyone's doing the same thing. There will often be certain people working, drilling takedowns, some people working on defending takedowns, working on just like setting up shots. Some people do kickboxing, so he really sets it up so, you know, we're working on both our strengths and our weaknesses, but there's a lot going on, and, you know, that's why we have Isaac, we have Dems, Matt, we have a lot of higher level guys in there who can help us out and, like, manage all because there are a lot of good guys in there, and you don't ever want to have, like, a good guy come from another gym and him kind of be on the sidelines.
Right.
He does a good job of keeping everyone involved and really making it so we have so many good people that come to the gym, so we gotta all go against each other. Like, you got to make them, like, this is a good 155er from this gym, and this is a good one from another gym. Neither of them from our gym, but, like, you know, they're there to get that work. I mean, we've even had fighters who have fought for 247 training there, like, a little bit before heading up, and he just separated them, and they both got work in. So it's like...
So crazy, dude.
I would imagine it's hard for him with so many good guys in a smaller area, but he does a fantastic job of it.
He does as good as you possibly could, man. I mean, I know just from, you know, I've been GM for like a year and a month, a year and 2 months, something like that. Just my short period of time, dealing with fighters is not easy. Like, it's a very difficult, you're very intensely driven people. Your schedules are crazy. Like, I was actually surprised it was easy to get you in the podcast studio. I was like, dude, man, getting Julian might be a stretch, but it worked out. Thankfully, the schedule's aligned. But a lot of times it doesn't. So for Isaac to manage, like, schedules, their personal lives, their professional lives, like you said, job, housing, all these little things that he does for people. But then on top of that, you said something that I think is super important, is knowing what each person needs and letting them work on things that they specifically need to work on. Just remembering what each person is good at and what they need with that many people, dude. And then the kids, like, he's super involved with kids wrestling and everything like that. I don't know how he does it. I tell him that all the time when I see him, like, Brett, like, you do more.
A bit very busy.
It doesn't make sense. The busiest man. Like, yeah, it's amazing. But obviously his roster, you can't, when you look at the mat factory, you see
we're stacked up.
Yeah, you see where all that effort's going and why, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, you go in that room, it could be you, it could be Cody Gamble, it could be Pippin. Like, for heavyweights, they're hard to find in our area. Like, there are like 6, and half of them are at the mat factory.
And here's another thing too, is that we have guys like Isaac Reed, who's a redshirt junior, who is ranked 12th in the country right now, beat the number 9th ranked guy.
Jeez.
And it's like I'm working with that as like he's one of the best heavyweight wrestlers in the country.
That's insane.
And I'm working with him. And then we have DJ Sims, who teaches and helps out as well, especially with me because me and him are good friends.
Oh, nice.
And he's a Division II All-American, and his like IQ of wrestling is
insane.
Extremely high. Yeah. So it's like even adding those two guys who aren't, you know, known in the MMA world, but as far as like big guys grappling and like the knowledge they can give me.
So
I mean, like you said, then I have Cody and JP who do MMA that I work with as well, like as partners. And I mean, yeah, there's it, you know, and then of course you have Dempsey who fought wrestled and fought at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Smaller now, you know, leaner, but he still gives us great advice for bigger guys because it is a different way of fighting for a heavyweight versus a 55, or that's just
exactly,
you know, it's different. So it's good to have skillful big guys to come in here and be like, this lock might not work against someone with strong hips at the heavyweight level, so you might want to change it to this grip. And just those small details can go so far when you have like those high level guys in there that can show you those little adjustments that might make a little bit more sense for me than someone who's lighter.
Right. And I think one of the biggest testaments to that has recently, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby Murda. Like when he came in and he had, from my understanding, he had like no grappling when he came in.
Not much, no.
And now he's like winning jiu-jitsu tournament. Like when he took that fight to win super fight and won it.
Wrestled him.
Dude.
Really, and that was really, I was excited for him to do that. I really tried to push him to do that event. He was uncertain. I told him about how good of a like promotion fight to win is, the exposure and flow grappling.
They are,
And I was like, that's like, it's a big stage in the grappling world. I was like, you should definitely take that opportunity. And he did. And now it's like, you Google Name for Dolls and you're like, you see, you know, kickboxing, you see the undefeated MMA record, but now you're going to see a grappling video posted from Flow Grappling. It's him attacking a front headlock for so many minutes. And you're like, oh, I got to deal with that too. Yeah, that's what you call he's commitment to the grind, 100%.
Yeah,
he's there day in and day out, and it's admirable because he's dedicated.
Yeah.
And it shows, like you said, in his grappling. Like from when he came, he had an understanding of grappling. Like it's not like he was novice, but it's not like he didn't understand it. And then now he's turning it up to where like there's a lot of kids going D1 and a lot of D1 wrestlers in our gym and a lot of D2 All-Americans, and if he's not beating them, he's giving them problems.
That's crazy.
It's like, and that's like, you know, that's gym stuff. That's nothing that like no one's seen it on the internet. But like, that boy can grapple.
You guys know. I texted him right away after he won that super fight. And I'm like, bro, I need you to lose some of these things once in a while. Like you are going to be impossible to match
up.
Dude. With his striking background already, his striking's phenomenal. Everybody knows about that. But you go out and start winning at Fight to Win and stuff like that. I'm like, nobody's gonna want to.
That's difficult too, man. I got heel hooked on Fight to Win 3 times, so it's not easy to get a W on Fight to Win. So,
dude, the leg lock game's a whole different animal.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about it. Still, I understand.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I don't
it's
like
a lot
it,
of
bro.
skill to do it.
I
so
get it.
It is what it is.
I'm exactly
if you're gonna
with you
sit down on the ground and attack my legs, then it takes a little bit of the fun out of the wrestling,
dude. Right,
out of the whole,
right. See, I think a guy like Gordon Ryan, like he just went ADCC.
Well, he's perfected it.
Exactly. But I feel like he went away from it for a long time, just like he got bored with it. I don't know that that's true at all, but just in my observation, he was like, because when he heel hooked Nicky Rod at ADCC, it just felt like he could have been doing that to everybody all along. And he probably could have. But when you get that good at it and you're Gordon Ryan, I feel like he was like, sure, I could just heel hook this guy, but I'm going to play around first.
He does the things for like who's number one in all his grappling events, where like he'll put a submission that he's going to do.
Dude, how
like
sick
before.
is that?
So
that
like you said, like, I think it's just more so he can sell those DVDs with rear naked chokes and stuff. He's like, I could tap this guy out with a leg lock in 30 to 60 seconds. But if I take the back or if I get a reversal and finish with a Kimura or Americana or something like that, it shows diversity to his game.
Which at this point nobody can deny. He's the best in the world right now and probably the best ever. Yeah. So he's on a ridiculous track, man. I wanted to ask you though, because we've talked a lot. Obviously, since I started with 247, we kept in touch pretty regularly. But I don't know how you got into fighting. I just realized the other day, I'm like, did you wrestle? I know you played football in college. No,
I growing up.
Wait, you didn't play football in college?
No, I did play football.
Oh, okay.
I never wrestled.
I
never wrestled.
Got
I
bad
don't have
info.
any
okay.
martial arts experience prior to. Well, when I was younger, I did Taekwondo for a year. Nah,
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't really count.
Yeah, and then I guess you could say I've always admired like MMA. I've always been a Mike Tyson fan since a kid because I grew up in Las
that's
Vegas.
sick. Okay.
So it's like that influence of him there. Like I've
Big
always
boxing.
been a fan of Mike Tyson and boxing and stuff like that. As I got through high school, I dibble-dabbled with it. Like, a friend just messing around. Nothing serious, not a structured gym. But once I got to college and I was doing football, I was like, in the off season, I wanted something to push myself. And I've always liked doing it. And in high school, my friend who was a really good wrestler wanted me to do the wrestling team. I went to some wrestling practices at my high school. But I'd played basketball since I was 4 years old. So I wasn't not going to not play basketball.
Right.
So it was very hard for me. But once I got to college and, it was just football. When it wasn't football season, strength and conditioning training, I was like, I'm going to do some mixed martial arts. So I got into it at Stout and Clarion MMA because I was up at Clarion.
Okay.
And then went from there. It really just started because I was like, I had a lot of friends first, like Mike Brell, tell me I would be good at it.
Okay.
He was like, you're strong, you're athletic, mentally tough, you like fighting, you watch it so much. Maybe you should just get into it, even if it just helps you with pass rushing off the line of scrimmage on the defensive line. Just something as simple as that. And I just fell in love with it. I mean, I've always liked it, but I never did it. Once I started, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Nice. So you were a D lineman?
Yeah.
Nice. I could see that for sure. I always heard like offensive linemen are a lot of times super stud wrestlers. Like wasn't Stephen Neal like one of the best American wrestlers? I think he was an offensive lineman for the Patriots. I think he beat Brock Lesnar. Like
I'm not familiar with that, but I do know who you're talking about. I mean, for offensive line, defensive line, just the line scrimmage in general, wrestling helps so much. The hand fighting, the low posture and stuff like that, head up, just everything that you have to do, hand fighting at the line of scrimmage, it translates very well with wrestling.
Now, obviously, in your MMA career, you've fallen in love with knocking people out. But I've always heard from just people, they're like, dude, Julian's grappling is better than his striking.
For sure.
Do you think so, too?
It is.
Yeah.
No,
like there's not even a question about it?
The thing with my striking is...
Maybe we shouldn't talk about this either. Speaking of impossible to match, it's like, oh, just take him down if you don't want to get knocked out. Oh, wait, no.
I mean, if they want to get guillotined or if they want to get reversed and you want me on top of them, ground and pound, I mean, that's their decision. But, I mean, I'm at the Mad Factory Wrestling Club. Grappling, for me, was always something I picked up on very quick because with football... Your form tackle is pretty much identical to a takedown besides head placement. I mean, you do a traditional football tackle, you're putting your head in the armpit, you'll get guillotined.
Sure.
You just change it, put your face, turn it, put it on the inside, and there you go. So I was always explosive with my wrestling, gravitated towards that, really worked on that in my jiu-jitsu. And ever since then, I'm at the Mad Factory, and I'm doing jiu-jitsu, doing wrestling, drilling that constantly. So... I compete in it, not as much as I'd like, because with matchmaking for MMA, it's been a little bit here, this 2 months kind of falls apart, then in 2 months. And I don't want to be the guy to grapple right before or get hurt and mess up an MMA opportunity, because that's ultimately the dream, is to make it an MMA, like get to the higher levels. But yes, my grappling's better than my striking. That's what that's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I was waiting to use it. I'm going to throw punches until someone's tough enough or technical enough to like stop it, get out of the way. And then I'm shooting for a takedown. And then you got to deal with a whole nother beast that's not even on camera. But there are people who know, like, that come to the training room or just watch me in general. I mean, I don't think there's really any big guys in the area that can hold me. Like, I've wrestled with the top big guys. And like I say, like, me and Isaac Reed get great scraps. Me and DJ, me and, like, you know what I mean? Me and Cody and stuff like that. So it's like I'm with good people who can wrestle. And it's not like there's anyone who with a high wrestling pedigree who's out wrestled me.
Right.
It may be a stalemate, but that's at best right there. So
that's
it's
crazy.
Like,
that's terrifying.
When it comes to that, it's like if someone wants to try to use their jiu-jitsu on me, they're going to have to go through the wrestling. I'm blanking that right there. And then once we get to the jiu-jitsu, that's my fun stuff. I'll tack some submissions and stuff.
Nice. Do you have a Dempsey style of jiu-jitsu? I feel like I could see you kind of being like him, constantly attacking headlocks and neck cranks and things like that.
A little bit because of so much of his influence,
right.
but I attack more limbs, more simple things. Kimura's Americana. I'm a very heavy on positional grappling.
Got it.
Very heavy. So it's like if I'm getting to a position, like I'm not the guy that's gonna throw up a triangle, go for an arm bar or a plata. I don't like being on my back at all when I grapple. So it's like I'm comfortable there. I mean, I'm a purple belt. You know, I've been doing it for 6 years now, so I know my stuff from the back. But as far as my style of jiu-jitsu, I'll attack ahead when I can, just because, I mean, Dempsey showed me about 80 different which ways and how I can grab and choke a neck. But I like the Kimura Americana. I'm pretty basic with my submission attacks, but for MMA, I'm positionally dominant. So it's like I'm better take someone down and hold them there.
That's sick. I feel like Dempsey's mounted guillotine is kind of legendary in the area. Like everybody just knows.
Everyone just references that to him in the area, and it makes sense because like he's done it to everyone's instructor.
It is exactly. It's like his move. Honestly, everybody's got their thing. Like that's his thing, and it just works.
Yeah, for sure.
It's ridiculous, man. But that whole stable of guys you got there, I love it. And as you work back, like, you want to get into grappling tournaments first, like see how the biceps feeling, boxing maybe even, where like what do you see as your progression right now?
My progression right now is just like when you asked about like if I had an experience like say wrestling, collegiate or high school, I don't. So when I listen to things, it's like a high school wrestler can have 100+ matches before they graduate. You know what I mean? That's 100+ combative competitions, you know?
Yeah, right.
So it's like I want to kind of catch my way up with experience. And I know I can never get up to a pedigree of someone who's started at a young age with any discipline, but it's like if I can get a bunch of grappling matches in, shore myself up on grappling, free myself up of any holes, translate that to MMA, and then like the same with boxing, you know what I mean? I just want to make sure that, one, my arm's good. That's a big thing because I've never had like an injury like this.
Right.
So I want to make sure I can build my body back up correctly to where, not just to where I'm healthy, but to where I'm like full tilt to where I'm good to go. Especially if I'm making that transition into a professional career as well. I mean, even then you'd want to build yourself up for that jump. So it's like two things. It's like the jump in competition, possibly testing out the arm. And then it's also when you don't do stuff for so long, you want to get back that momentum going.
Sure.
I win a couple of jiu-jitsu tournaments. I might just go in and just take the guy down in a couple seconds. You know what I mean? So I just want to get that.
No, you won't. Don't even pretend.
Come on.
Don't even pretend, dude. You're not going to do that.
I might hit him with someone with an ankle pick. I don't know, man. You never know because it's a progression of the game, and I want to be my goal is to be as well-rounded as possible.
Yeah.
Like if I could be a B+, A- across the board, that's like ideal. I don't want to be a specialist per se. Not that they don't do well in their own right, but I don't want anyone out there, I don't care who it is, as a wrestler out there on the face of the planet, just to be able to take me down and hold me down. I don't want any striker to just play with me.
Right.
So as long as I can, I'm not trying to go over to glory or be an Olympic wrestler, but I'm saying like as long as I can hold my own and progress in the mixed martial arts world, I mean, you're going to better nullify a lot of things because most guys are going to have their pluses and minuses, and if I'm about even across the board, I can exploit a lot of guys in whatever areas they may lack.
Right.
If they're a striker, I can stand with them and not get killed until I can take them down. If they're a grappler, butcher them on the feet, stop the takedown, or if they take me down, I'm going to get right back up. That's the one thing about wrestling. It's like, it's one thing to get taken down, it's another to stay down.
Right.
And most physically exhausting thing to do in mixed martial arts is shoot for a takedown.
Sure.
If someone shoots for a takedown and then gets a takedown or doesn't, and the other guy's back on their feet, they're exhausted.
Waste
a
lot of energy.
They already don't have
there.
that striking level, you know what I mean?
Gets worse after every failed shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm well-rounded, I think that'd be perfect for myself personally.
That's sick, man. I was talking to Michael McSorley here in the studio recently, boxing promoter locally, and we were talking about how some people just have natural knockout power. Clearly you have that, but when did you realize you had that? Do you remember the first time you ever knocked somebody out?
The first time I knocked someone out, I mean, I've been getting in fights since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I assume
I grew up in inner city, you know what I mean? You kind of just, that's kind of the way of life. But First time knocking someone out, I might have been like 8 years old or something
What?
like that. But
What?
as far as like, I mean, it's another little kid, so you know. But as far as like older, I mean, you know, go
That's
back
my
to
headline.
go back to the college days. You
That's
know
my
what I
new
mean?
headline. Julian Flenory knocks out little kids.
Oh, come on. You got to put in there. I was a little kid though too. Yeah, but I mean, even in high school though, which is another thing. In high school, I got into a lot of fights, for whatever reason. And then it's like by the time that I knew that I was good enough to either play football or basketball at the collegiate level, my junior year, that's kind of what settled me down and like really made me like be on my P's and Q's. But I mean, I've always known that I've had it. That's why I've liked the idea of fighting and I've gravitated towards it.
Mm-hmm.
But like even in football, I've always been like an explosive, high pop person, hand fighting, you know what I mean? Push that initial pop
Right.
with the hands and stuff like that. So I've always known that I've had that power. It's just different knowing it and translating it over to fighting.
Right.
Because, I mean, it can be difficult to land the shot. It can be difficult to let your hands go and not be trigger shy. And like, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Nuts.
But as far as having the power, I've always known I've had that.
Yeah. Is that almost a trap? Like we always hear people at the UFC level talk about it. A wrestler finds out that he has knockout power in his hands and suddenly doesn't want to wrestle anymore. Is it almost a trap for you to be able to get dudes out of there that fast?
I would say yes and no. I would say yes because it's a falsehood that it's always going to happen.
Right.
And I can't let myself think that I'm going to be able to walk through everyone because there's a lot of tough guys out there in this country, the world, you know what I mean? So there is the idea of that I maybe with the role that I've had, I could walk through people. But then no, because me, I try to be as objective with myself. I'm myself's biggest critic. No one's going to judge me or grade my performances or tell me I need to straighten my punch more or lower my stance more than myself. And that's just the honest truth. So I look at it as like, cool. I mean, the last one I got hurt, but usually I want them to be quick so I don't get hurt, don't take a lot of damage. I want to go to Sunday practice the next day. I know that sounds crazy, but
that is a little crazy.
I genuinely like to train mixed martial arts. Yeah. So I look at it as, thank God I've been, you know what I mean? Thank God I've been knocking everyone out, but it's like, I'm not going to fall into that trap. For other people, 100%, there are so many wrestlers who do fall into that. And then it's kind of weird that they don't use their wrestling when maybe they could.
Right.
With me, last two fights, if either of them would have stopped that initial flurry, I mean, you saw how close I was to him. I wouldn't have just jumped to a single leg, tripped that outside leg, cleared the leg, got the side control, and then in that last fight, get a TKO from there, or 2 fights ago when it wasn't advanced AMI rolls, I mean, just attack a Kimura or a front Dempsey headlock. So it's like there's things that I know I can do from there because one of my specialties is wall work. And that's because one of the benefits of having a small gym is that you're always going to be on the wall.
That's kind of funny.
Especially as a heavyweight, I'm going to have, Isaac Reed, DJ, Cody, JP pushing me
pushing
against
you
the
around,
wall, pushing them
sure.
into the wall. So I work well on taking people down off the wall, and I work very well with my back on the wall because I'm flexible. So someone can pick my leg up onto their shoulder, I can do a split. So it's like I'm not really worried about someone getting a single leg. It's going to have to be a deep double leg to get me down.
That's sick, man. When you were defensive lineman, what was your playing weight then?
About 265.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what was interesting was I didn't even know this. Like this was before I guess you had a fight with 247 scheduled at like 185 or 205.
I did have a fight at 185.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I've never walked around under 200 pounds since 8th grade.
That's crazy. So
but I did have a fight at 185. It was a day of weigh-ins too, which is crazy. And I woke up at 202. I should and thought I was lighter, and then I made it to 186 within about 6 hours.
Dude, what? What?
When you lift for 13 years, you know what I mean. You have that dense muscle. You can really wring water out of it.
Yeah.
I feel bad though for my friends and family that were with me after the cut because we went to Subway after, and they wanted to talk to me about the fight. I'm like, if you don't get out of my way, let me order this hoagie.
Yeah.
But
Dang,
that was the initial reason why I tried it at 185, and that was when I didn't count my macros. I didn't eat a sweet or anything for 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And that was me just getting down to 202 pounds on that. So it was kind of like, that wasn't just realistic. And then as I got heavier and a little bit more comfortable, 205 was like, okay, 205 or heavyweight. I was going to be a tweener. And it's like, as I just naturally just lift and eat. And even if I'm doing intensive cardio, it's like my body hates being under the 240, 245 pound threshold. Like if I'm underneath then, I really have to have a clean diet and it really has to be cardio 6+ times a
Really
week.
interesting.
Which 6+ isn't a lot, but I do, I get my lifts in.
Sure.
And, but as far as training and stuff like that, like I'm training however many times a week. It's just my body doesn't like to float that much or float that down. And now I'm sitting where I want to be to cut to heavyweight.
Nice.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
5'11".
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, 5'10", 5'11"-ish. So I just feel like the natural inclination is for people to see you and think you could be 205. Or, yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, there's some there's some lightweights in our gym. Like there's some people that are taller than me. So it's like, usually people look at me and be like, well, you're muscular, but heavyweight. And I'm like,
Yeah, and
weight classes can be a little bit rough for thicker boys.
That is crazy. It's interesting though. It's good that you know your body that well. Like, do you use a whoop strap or something like that as well? Yeah, there you go.
On me right now,
See,
baby.
I knew it. I knew it. When you were talking about how dialed in you were, I'm like, I guarantee you, he's monitoring everything.
I try to monitor everything, even when I like make mistakes in my diet or just like workouts and stuff like that. I try to keep note of that. Write in my notebook and stuff like that, my workouts, what I did, what I should have done.
That's awesome.
So I try to stay really analytical with my physical performances as well.
Where's that come from? That desire to track those things?
I grew up that way. I think it was more of a self-teaching type thing. Like my mom as well, she really instructed me to be timely, be really in tune with yourself and be able to be, I don't want to use the word militant, but kind of be very structured.
Sure.
Because you have to, you have to be your own man in this world, have to have your accountability, and discipline is what makes a lot of people success or not. So even through middle school and high school, and I was making sure I did my 500 push-ups a day so I can make it to the college level and make it to the NFL or so on and so forth. And then making sure I run so much a week or do the ladder drill so much. And then once I got to martial arts, making sure I'm training martial arts, 6+ times a week, and then get my strength and conditioning in and eating healthy and proper recovery. I just think it all goes into the grind of just like an overall athlete. And I get a lot of that from myself because I'm a real structured person, scheduled. Like,
right.
I like to know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I like to have it written out. I like to be able to see schedule and things. And it just really helps me lock in and be disciplined and know that, like, if I stick to the schedule that I got, that I'll be where I want to be at the end of the day.
I love that, man. It shows in your performances, and obviously being with somebody like Isaac, who's very similar. I'm sure you guys feed off each other in that regard. As an aside, I want to shout out to your mom. She's like one of the best fans ever. Like, I love when she's at the fight. She's always like super happy to see us and to be there. I'll say she like never seems nervous when you're about to fight, which surprises me.
Whoa.
To me.
Whoa.
She hides it well then. Does she get pretty worked up?
Oh my goodness, does she get worked up? Oh my goodness. If she hides it well, then I'm glad.
Yeah.
I love her. She's always been like the #1 fan. Like, we'd have 6,000 people at a football game and I'd be able to hear her. Like, she's always been a super fan, football, basketball, anything like that.
That's killer.
Deeply appreciate that. I love her so much for that. But if you don't see it, then thank God, because she's about as nervous as it can get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To her, that's her baby boy going in there and fist fighting another man. You know what I mean? So to her, it's like it can be scary.
Sure.
And she understands it because when she was working out in Vegas and stuff like that, like, she went to the Mike Tyson fights. Like, she's the one who really got me. She's the one who got me into Taekwondo for a brief stint. She's the one who got me to watch boxing, like boxing. So she's always like that type of stuff as well. But when it's me, oh, she's scared to death.
That's hilarious. She definitely hides it well, man. I got to give her props on that. You mentioned like football games, basketball games. I want to skip to basketball just for a second because 5'11", 265 isn't a common basketball build, but it sounds like you were legit at basketball. What position did you play?
I got some buckets. It's funny. I was kind of the floater because, me being a big guy, the coach is like, you're the 4, you know what I mean? Because I was the shortest person on our starting lineup.
Right.
So, like, you could say I was the point guard because, like, our point guard was 6'2", So it's like I pretty much floated from the 2 to the 5 position and just, like, ran to where I needed to be. I was a high IQ player, slipped in between the zones, 2, 3, in the back corners, you know what I mean? Really, I just played my role, set a lot of screens, picked and pop. I could shoot the ball well, I could handle the ball well, and I didn't have a lot of turnover. So I was more of a role, like a Draymond Green type of player.
Nice.
So it's like I knew my role and I played it well. I played good defense. I was a captain and stuff like that.
That's
had
sick.
a couple 20-point
Nice.
games, you know what I mean?
Nice.
So I was decent. I was decent.
You punch like Draymond Green too.
Hey, he punched him. Ooh.
He dropped it, man.
Yeah.
That was clean. Like that was not somebody who hasn't punched somebody before. I'll tell you
That was
that.
aggressive for basketball though, because I've been in some basketball fights, and usually, you know, like
they're just chippy and weird, but
push
nobody
back
gets
and
hurt.
forth,
Yeah,
say
exactly.
something, maybe throw a punch and misses, but that was like,
Draymond was like, dude, I'm decking you with
that was
all.
like a back alley mugging.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad, dude. That's amazing though, man. That obviously you've just been a natural athlete your whole life. And I think fighting is a good place for somebody like that, right? Like when the collegiate dreams are over, you know, you're not in the NFL or the NBA and you want to keep being competitive. Like we just had Lucas Siebert in the studio. He was talking about the same thing. Like when wrestling was over collegiately, he still had competitive spirit, but knew he wasn't an Olympic wrestler, knew he wasn't, you know, going to keep wrestling. So what are you going to do? Like you're going to fight. So that's a natural place for you guys to end up. And now we've got all these just super athletes coming to fighting. For us, it's awesome.
That's the next wave of
Yeah,
MMA.
right.
Add on that athleticism to the
Crazy.
started with the single disciplines. Now you
Yep.
have to know so many, and then it's going to be incorporating more strength and conditioning into the sport, getting those better athletes into the sport, and just
Exactly.
getting the athletes in the sport better in general.
One thing that I think that I'm sure you find as well is these people who are lifelong athletes. I see it. A lot of Pittsburgh Steelers will like box, partly to stay in shape, partly because, like you said, hands and everything are super important in football as well. But they pick up on ideas so much faster than the average person. Like when you teach them something athletic, a way to move their body, a way to slip, a way to do this, they just get it way faster than the average person. Do you find that you like pick up on concepts faster from being involved your whole life in athletics?
I do. I think it starts a lot from if you're the average guy that doesn't have an athletic background, it might be harder for you to understand the verbiage or understand even the body language and just understand the little intricate things that some athletes might be able to pick up on. Because a lot of kids are starting at wrestling, myself, and basketball and football and stuff like that at 4 years old.
Right.
So it's like I was learning how to, like I had a coach yelling at me to do just how doing the simplest thing to dribble a basketball. A coach yelling at me just to tackle the person with the ball when I'm on defense. You don't know the difference between offense and defense. So I just think when you start it as a youth, when you start as a young kid, you have so many coaches, so many different ways of teaching, and you just have so many different things that you have learned to grow up on and like learn from being coached your whole life, if that's the route that someone goes as an athlete, that once you jump into something like martial arts, that's completely different than anything, at least for me, that I've done prior to martial arts, that I can pick up on better hand placement, how hard to grip, how like, you know, what foot placement, different things like that. And a lot of people, it's not that they don't know the things, but hand-eye coordination and feet-eye coordination are hard to get if you're someone who's not used to doing stuff like that.
Right.
So if you're not someone who grew up playing soccer to have that foot-eye coordination or baseball, basketball, football, hand-eye coordination, it's going to be harder for you to always grab the wrists in the right place if you're not used to. If you're
It's
not
a
used to
weird
doing
way
anything.
to put it, but it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
That's kind of how I think of it. It's like it's muscle memory. It's a lot of different things that comes into being an athlete, not second guessing yourself, knowing how fast you are, and knowing how strong you are too. A guy can come into the gym and not think of himself as a strong guy, and then later find out after he learns how to use his strength that he indeed has natural strength.
Right.
So I think it's more of with newer people finding their bodies, knowing themselves. Because when you do sports from a young age, you know your body pretty well. If you go through a growth spurt, a lot of weight, either gained or lost, and that can change things. But for the most part, you know what I mean, the nervous system really helps you as an athlete to learn new things. So like when I learn how to do foot trips or clinch up against the wall, I can think of it related to previous things I've done, and then also know that I don't want to do too much pressure. I don't want to slip into the wall, or I don't want to have too less pressure and they hip out and get to a advantageous position for themselves. So I think it has a lot to do with just knowing yourself. As and athletes obviously know themselves because you have to at the collegiate level. Like you have to know where your weight's at every day, what your bench, your squat, your 5-10 shuttle is. Like you have coaches like literally like, you know, wanting you to get better day by day. Like if you run a 4-5-6, they need you to get to a 4.52 by the end of the semester. So if you're at a 4, the last time you ran 2 weeks ago and they timed it, it's a 4.54. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, well, we need to like pick it up. So it's kind of like knowing your body really helps with athletes when they get into a different sport versus someone who is maybe new to it. Not saying they can't pick up on it. It's just going to take a little bit more time in the beginning.
Sure. What I just got to ask now, what was your fastest 40 ever?
My fastest 40 ever was at the Duquesne Combine. I ran a 4.58. It was the only time I ran a sub 4.6.
That's smoking,
dude. And I was 260 too.
That is boy. Smoking. Yeah. Dude, you're terrified. Yeah, there we go. Dude, Julian Flenory.
I definitely cannot run that fast now.
No, but that's terrifying to even think of you running a 4.58. So, yeah, I mean, you're just a natural athlete, dude. That's what it comes down to. You're just one of those guys, super explosive, super athletic, like they say. But I want to point out, if anybody recognizes his voice from the last pay-per-view broadcast, you're also pretty slick on the mic.
I appreciate
the broadcast journalism, man.
That.
I listened back to it. I was like, dude, Julian's good. Like, I know you have a broadcast background from college, but what was that experience like, commentating a couple fights?
Well, it was once. Well, I want to say thank you for that because it was very fun to do, and it's something I look forward to, and I just like the idea of doing it because like I did it in college.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and did mock broadcast, mock different things, and then actually a couple sporting events. So I have a little bit of experience, but that was my first time doing something of that magnitude, and even doing anything like that since college too, which has been a few years. So it was nice to be back in that background from an analytical standpoint, you know what I mean, and like give some knowledge on like what I see as like an athlete. And, you know, having Luke, who's knowledgeable and can really, you know, run the show between the three of us when I was doing it, and Cole, who is knowledgeable as well, you know what I mean? It was just cool, and I know him personally. So it was cool to be able to go up there and speak, and it was on some good fighters, too. Really good fights.
I tried to give you good fights.
You arguably gave me the two best. You know what I mean? Two of the best.
Yeah,
you know? So
for sure.
It was easy to do when you have athletes that, one, know what they're doing and were like composing there and going hard and stuff like that. And then it was just a fun time to be in that environment because, you know, I went to school for that. And I genuinely do like doing that as well. Like, I think it's fun speaking on that. You know,
That's sweet.
Speaking on sports, commentating and stuff like that.
Nice. Well, if you want to do it again, man, we'll run it back. We'll get you another fight
anytime.
or two for sure. Yeah. While that bicep continues to heal.
Yeah.
I'd rather see you inside the cage, full disclosure. But if you can't fight, then for sure, commentating is a good second place.
I appreciate
like that. Yeah, dude. And Bobby Murda did a great job too, and so did Edwin. Like, all you Mat Factory guys asking us to commentate, like, that's cool for us. Obviously, like, I don't want this to be an invitation for everybody.
Hey.
Like, we can't just get everybody.
And my boy Hunter up.
Yeah. Like, we would love for that, but it's just not realistic. But it's cool for the people who have had a chance to do it. You guys have all done a really good job. Bobby, I knew Bobby was going to be good, and I knew Edwin was going to be super relaxed and fun. And it was kind of exactly what I expected. Like, Edwin, you could tell, was just having fun with it, like having a good time. Yeah.
A little bit of ad-libs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Bobby was like breaking things down and almost calling things before they happen. You can just tell his fight IQ is crazy.
Extremely high.
Yeah. He's nuts. And that's, again, another benefit of you being at the Mat Factory. Like, you just got guys like
much
this,
when it comes to kickboxing.
I'm sure.
So much.
I'm sure. It cracked me up. I gotta say, I was in the Mat Factory one day, and Bobby, I don't think he fought Chance yet for us. I think he was like 2-0 or 3-0 at the time. And I don't know why that's so funny to me, but like, he's this kickboxer, right? Not much grappling background, and I hadn't really seen him at the Mat Factory ever before. I knew he was working at the Mat Factory, but I went in, he was wearing like sweatpants with a t-shirt tucked in, and it was like the classic wrestling room look. Like, he just looked like he belonged in a wrestling room, and it just cracked me up for whatever reason. I'm like, look at this, like, Isaac's turning this guy into a wrestler before my eyes.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely, like said earlier, has come a long way with that, and it's really cool to see because like his mentality has stayed the same, but like his mentality as far as how he uses his talents now is different because he knows like it almost opens up his striking so much more now because like when you do sparring like in the room and stuff like that and just watch him, it opens up his striking so much more now.
So true.
That he's confident that he can throw a leg kick and not worry about someone shooting for a takedown immediately, or he can, you know, do a little bit more risky combinations, try to get in the pocket, maybe throw 3 to 5 punches, you know what I mean, without having the fear of, oh, this guy's close and might try to get underneath me. Because now it's like, it opens up his striking so much more of his grappling being that good.
Yep.
Because it's like, I'm just waiting to see, like, even in his next fight or whenever it is, like, for him just to feint, and shoot a takedown because his grappling's good.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're putting in the hours he's putting in, and when you're putting in the hours so closely together, it's like because he's been here for not that long,
right?
A little over a year, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's like he's in the room every day, and he's in our room, and he's somewhere else getting good work with another coach, and it's like his grappling has just gotten so much better, his submission threats and stuff like that, to the point to where it'll open up his kickboxing.
Right.
Like we've seen him in the cage do well and stuff like that, and then once you get to the pro level, you throw in those head kicks, those question marks, those teeps to the face, throwing those more dangerous, moves that he can do.
Fight finishing techniques. Yeah, right.
He doesn't have to be weary of like, oh, this guy's just going to take me down. Because he's used to going against high-level grapplers day in and day out. And in the beginning, it was rough for him. Like, it's rough for anyone. It was. He's a kickboxer, and they're looking at him like, he's a fighter, and he's fresh meat in the grappling, like in grappling terms. It's like, okay, like, you might be a good kickboxer MMA, but I've wrestled for however long, you know what I mean? So they try to take it to him. And in the beginning, held his own. It was hard for him. But now it's like he's really showing that, like, hey, does he got any? I know he's coming down from Canada by way of Afghanistan and Russia. He's got some college. He's got any college eligibility? Because that boy can wrestle. You know what I mean? Yeah, that boy can wrestle. Yeah,
that's hilarious. And shout out to him, man. He has is that a title fight he has coming up? November 23rd.
It is.
Yeah. So if you guys want to watch Bobby Murda, check that out. November 23rd for Bizarro Promotions, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, not us, unfortunately, but maybe pro debut, something after. We love getting Bobby Murda in that cage, man. Obviously, I was telling Siebert, and you certainly fall in that category, like, it's such an honor for us, man, just to have these high-level fighters in the area fight for us and get them in the cage, because, like, I know all you guys are going to go do bigger and better things. And Ryan talks about it all the time, too. Like, sending Kama to the UFC, that's the biggest compliment that we could ever have, is when our champion goes on, John DeJesus, goes on to Bellator right after getting our belt. Ethan now waiting on that call up to Bellator UFC and might get it. So everybody thinks we want to be selfish and just like keep you guys for ourselves. Like, that's literally not what we want. What we want for Pittsburgh MMA to grow is for people to go take that next step. Like, go spread your wings. When we give you a pro belt, we don't want you to defend it. We hope that tells the UFC, like, come get this guy. He's 247's pro champ. He's ready to go. That's what we want it to be. And then the more people we get like that, the more we'll see new, fresh meat, like you said, get new people in, keep growing the sport. Like, dude, that's our goal. So for somebody like Bobby Murda, not fighting for us, but like, I want you guys to go support him and go watch that fight, because he's the next guy from this area that is doing the damn thing. Like, you have to support it, and you can't be selfish about it. It's big to me, because I see that all the time where promotions don't want to even acknowledge another fight happening because it's your competition. It's like, dude, we're not competition. Like, we're all in this together, and there's room for all of us to win. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I agree with. I feel like with 247, you guys have done a really good job of bringing the quality of the promotion to where it's like you said, if you're successful on this platform with the matchmaking of tougher fights, that you are ready to take that next step. And like you said, there's been many fighters who have, like Kama, John DeJesus. You got, like you said, Ethan Goss waiting in the
right there,
waiting to see what's up with him, and then more coming through the ranks for 247. And it's like the quality. It shows, you know what I mean, like in the quality of the promotion, that like guys aren't here, and there are other promotions I can mention, but I won't. Who you fight people who aren't any good, and you stack up your record, and then it's like you have so many wins in that promotion, you have a belt, but it's like no one's really looking at you because who have you fought? Right. With your promotion, you guys are giving people at least harder tests than other promotions would. So it adds on to the quality, the value of like winning a 247 belt, winning in the organization.
Nice. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you recognize that too, because that's what we're trying to do. Like, even the amateur belt, we want the amateur belt to mean you're ready to go pro. Right. And we don't want to just hand out. A lot of promotions will create an amateur title fight to sell tickets. Like, so it's a title fight.
If you won your last 2 fights, you can fight for a belt.
Exactly. I mean, we have that. Like, we will not give you a title shot off a loss. We don't do it. We see other promotions do it all the time, and it's like, how's that work? Like, how's he title worthy? You know what I mean? Right. They're just doing 100%. It to sell tickets, but we want to make fights that make sense. So there was actually I forget if it was Bit B13 maybe. The blue corner like dominated the red corner that night. So people always think like we're trying to set up Pittsburgh to win. That's not the case. we're setting up fair fights. Like the out-of-towners dominated that night by and large. So that's good though, because now the Pittsburgh fighters will go back to the drawing board, figure out what they need to work on, come back better fighters. If we're not getting better, like what are we doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and with no other promotion in Pittsburgh and you guys being here really helps, like, everyone be like, okay, we have somewhere where we can fight at home. Because I do feel like, I don't necessarily think that there were a drop-off in fighters, but I think there was a drop-off in as many of the fighters, like, actively fighting. Just because they knew they had to go to Cleveland, they had to go up to Erie, had to go to the east side of Pennsylvania, had to go down to West Virginia or something. And I feel like with it being here, it's having fighters being like, okay, there's something here, like, I could fight in front of my friends and family in 2 months, you know what I mean? Like so many times a year. So I feel like it's definitely raised the overall, like, high tide rises all boats. Like I feel like it's helped everyone with the martial artists and the gyms and stuff like that become more competitive. And at least I like the gyms going against other gyms, like locally. I know a lot of other people or whatever. I love the cross training as well, but there's a time and place for it, you know what I mean? At least I think so. I like, you know, showing who's the best in your area at your weight class. I like that. That's why important, I wanted to whoop Albright's ass. But you know, we'll have to see if we can get that cracking at the pro level, though. That might be nice.
Dude, that's a nice fight. I like that.
Make a pro debut.
Dude, I'm down for that, too. I think he's 3-3 now. He qualifies for pro in PA, so maybe.
Could be something there. Just, you know, follows the storylines, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
something like that. But I really like seeing who the top dog is in the area, and I like that there's organization here and can pit some guys against. I know it's mostly home guys versus out-of-towners, but I do like, you know, like guys locally, like, all right, acknowledging each other. Like, I'm going to stay at my gym a little bit more, you know what I mean?
It's exciting when we can make one of those happen. And I fully understand, like, Matt Factory's never going to fight Stout. Like, things like that, I get it. And I respect it. But it is cool when you get that rogue Pittsburgh versus Pittsburgh fight. I mean, the biggest fight in Pittsburgh MMA history was Cody Garbrandt versus Dom Mazzata. Yeah. And Cody was training at Fight Club Pittsburgh at the time. Like, even though he's an Ohio boy, he was Pittsburgh. Like, he had a huge following in Pittsburgh. So, just perfectly to your point, like, when you can set that up and it truly becomes who's the baddest dude in Pittsburgh, dude, that
those
fight
really
transcend
bananas. A fighter, too, as far as, like, regional and local fans, audience, and stuff like that who know who you are and, like, want to follow you. Because it's, like, I feel like there are some other fighters locally, you know what I mean, who get to that stage, and it's not that they don't, they deserve to be there. It's just the fact that it's like they might have a little bit more, I wouldn't say star power, but a little bit more audience, followers, fans behind them had they taken out that other guy who's the other head honcho. But I understand, you know, Pittsburgh's not a major city. It's not like it's New York City or Miami or something where there has to be so many gyms going against each other. There's only so many quality ones in the Pittsburgh area. But I do like seeing, like, who the top dog is. You know what I mean? Like, that might come from my sports background. Might not be the most martial artist. You know, look at it. But the athlete in me says, like, if you're around my size and you think you can take me, then let's go. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of my mentality on it. And I see where, like, you know what I mean, sometimes that doesn't work. But all in all, you know, I'll fight whoever.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's obvious for sure. Just please don't fight me. But, like, for sure.
You're a heavyweight now. I saw that picture.
Oh, dude, I'm 241.
You're a heavyweight.
I was 241.4 because we're doing the Fat Mactory Challenge. We're doing that. So I'm getting down to 205. I've lost 8 pounds already. I'm on the move, dog.
You're gonna get lean.
I'm on the. I think I'm gonna be like super sexy, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna be like.
You're gonna stay down there.
That's exactly what I said.
You probably won't get north of 220.
I'm gonna like it too much. Yeah, I'm gonna like it too much. Hopefully, my wife. Here's the funny thing: my wife likes me bigger. Like, for our wedding, I weighed like 190. I was on keto and it wasn't even for the wedding.
Love the squeeze. You know?
I guess. See, you get it too.
My fiance is the same way.
So, like, I was down to like 190 for my wedding, and it wasn't even intentional. I didn't get skinny for the wedding or anything. It was just like the phase I was in. I was keto. I was like all about it. Got down to like 190, 195, and she like looks at wedding pictures still. She's like, "You're way too skinny.
That's not.
You can never be that skinny." Yeah, you can never be. So now I'm like, I need to get down to 205 for this challenge. She's like, "Can you gain the weight back like immediately after you weigh in?"
That's funny.
I'm like, what if what if I like it though?
Yeah.
So I'm torn because like she doesn't want me to be 205. She likes like 225. I'm probably thicker than I need to be right now, to be fair. Like I got a little extra
You get
thickness
down
than
to
I need.
205 like a normal fighter. You float back to
That's what I'm
215.
saying.
You'll be good.
Stay
man.
around
Yeah,
215.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I'm hoping we can.
You'll be
find a
looking good.
happy
You got
medium.
that's a 25-pound weight difference.
Isn't that
in what you're at,
crazy?
26. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Now, so.
Yeah. I mean, 6'3", 215. That seems like ideal size.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just stay
NFL wideout right there. Let's
there.
go.
Yeah, that's me.
Let's go.
Dude, the Steelers could use me
replace
right
Claypool,
now.
yeah.
Steelers could
Get out
definitely
there.
use me. I can't run a 4.58 though. Like that's legit NFL receiver speed, dude. 4.58.
I'd say they're faster than
Dude,
that.
like now, but like Hines Ward, I bet Hines ran like
I think that's like the exact time that he ran, if I'm not mistaken.
See, I mean, like that's not Jamar Chase, obviously, but like
I love that you named him too, because he's my favorite Steeler for like majority of like my childhood.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I
love
could see
Hines
that.
Ward.
He was filthy.
Oh,
I mean, everybody loves him in
I
Pittsburgh.
liked him because he was a wide receiver, caught touchdowns like everyone else, but then he played like a linebacker at wide receiver. So I was like, what's not to like about that?
His block on Keith Rivers where he broke his jaw.
That was my screensaver on my computer screen for like a year. And my
so
mom would
good.
log on and just be like,
Why? Why are you doing this, Julian?
I'd be like, what do you mean? It was Ladainian Tomlinson last year. You know, like,
Literally ended Keith Rivers' career, which is unfortunate. Honestly, like even I don't really necessarily like seeing that. Even nowadays, and this is definitely a more modern day discussion, but like when you see guys get knocked out in football, like knocked out cold, I hate seeing it now.
I never liked seeing that
Yeah.
ever since I was young. Even growing up in a little before like the rules change, playing before
Right.
the rules change, I guess you could say. I never was a fan of that. Like I was the only person on my high school team as a senior who played both offense and defense full time. And like most of the head honchos on our team, their helmets were, they can get really bad, chipped
Right,
paint on the front,
right.
stuff like that. I never had scratches on my helmet all
That's good.
throughout. Growing up to the time I got older, it was just something about hitting with the head or getting hit with the head. I just was like, I just don't feel like that. You can
Yeah.
tackle and you can do a lot of things without using the crown of your helmet.
It's hard to
And
watch.
when I
man.
see people like get taken out like that, I'm like, because that's
That's
it's-
life altering.
yeah, because a
yeah.
helmet's gonna be like a helmet. The helmet is gonna expect, and if you're not looking, it's gonna be a lot different than even getting
Terrifying.
punched with a fist. Like,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's you're talking about
At that
getting-
speed?
At that
Yeah.
speed, you're running full head, and you're lowering your head to someone. It's like, yeah, when I see that, I'm just kind of like, I really hope they're okay, because at the end of the day, it is still sport.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's just it's not just, but it is a sport. So it's like you don't want to see something like that where it can alter someone's physical well-being
Right.
outside of the sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good that you had that mentality in football, but now obviously fighting, got to get hit in the head. Got to
yeah.
get hit in the head. Like
Well,
how,
I don't want to get hit in the head.
how much do you
Practice my moves.
yeah. How much do you
Floyd Mayweather.
focus on that? Like your mental brain health? How much of the forefront is that when you're thinking?
I
Like
wrote a
sparring and
16-page
everything.
paper on CTE in college.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Nice.
For my English class, actually. It was on a topic that you like or want to explain, and mine was on CTE.
That's sick.
I'm pretty
Good for
well
you.
versed
Yeah.
in it. And as football terms, I was like, I'm pretty sure, even though I played for so long, I've never had a concussion in football. Well, now that I've been diagnosed with, you know how that is. But I've never had one. And then when it comes to MMA, I've never been like knocked out in training or in a fight. Like I've been hit hard.
Sure.
You're gonna get hard in sparring or whatever. But like I've never been put out. And I really do try to make a note of that. Like I want to be, from a business perspective and also from legacy, I mean, like, what do you guys want to see? You guys want to see me knock someone out. And to do that, you might have to take a couple punches to do it. I mean, you could go the Khabib route and not get touched, the Dagestani route, you know what I mean? And I love that route too, just wrestling people. It's dominant. It's as dominant as a way you can win as there is. It's just as far as like entertaining, value, legacy, and stuff like that. Like, I want to go out there and get knockouts. Plus, I have the ability to get knockouts as well. But you always have to be cautious of your brain health when you're going into a fight, out of a fight. Like, that stuff I'm always monitoring. Like, I don't want to get hit at all. Like, I don't mean that as in, like, I'm afraid to get hit. I'll eat that. You know, like some chicken tenders. But
Oh, dude, I could murder some chicken tenders
I haven't
right
had
now.
those in a while. I've been trying to eat a little cleaner. But
Same.
I could, but like, I could eat some punches like a chicken tender, but I'd rather dodge them like Floyd Mayweather if I can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be someone who's standing there getting hit because, like, I want to be able to play and speak eloquently to my grandchildren one day.
Yes.
And I do think of stuff like that when I see boxing's a little bit different because of the head trauma and the 10 count, standing 10 count. So you look a little bit more brain damage there, but even like older MMA guys, I don't want to be that guy that's like slurring words, punch drunk when you're
It's
like
hard to watch.
45, 50 years old. And I know that it's inevitable for some guys if that's like how you fight. But for me, I mean, if I'm getting rocked too many times to the head, I'm shooting for that takedown.
Right.
Like, I know that's like for most people what they're going to do anyway. But I do, when you see fighters getting knocked out, and then they had a study, I don't know who it was by recently, but they did like on fighters that once they get knocked out once,
how much easier
it keeps happening. It just keeps happening.
I saw that too.
And I'm just, you always got to be cautious of that. You don't want to eat big shots at all. You don't want to take a shin bone. You don't want to take an elbow. You don't want to take a bomb to the face. You know what I mean? You want to be, that's why you have to have your technique good. And if it's not, I mean, it's a very dangerous sport at the end of the day. It's fun to win. And if you lose and it's not that bad, then it's okay. From a physical standpoint. But you can get beaten up pretty bad before a fight is ended in MMA. And that can literally be life altering just from one fight.
Right.
So you always have to be like cautious of that. And that's why hands up, head movement, feints, like you have to know what you're doing when you get out there. And that's like bringing it back to the beginning and when we were talking, that's kind of where I'm at right now with the whole where do I go through next and making sure I'm taking the right steps because I want to make sure that my skills are appropriate with the steps I'm taking. I mean,
nice.
I want the biggest fights I can get. Of course, I want to climb the ladder as quick as possible. I also want to do it smart. I realize it's a business. I realize there's a lot of factors that go into it than just getting into the cage.
Right.
And once, and like we were saying, like with your head and stuff like that, you get knocked out. When can you fight again? 6 months after that? Like that's also something that from a business standpoint, you look at the health standpoint of, okay, you might be messed up at your grandchildren's birthday party, can't talk right. Then you look at the business aspect. Like when Kamaru Usman talks about his second fight that he lost and how the only reason why he tapped is because he knew that he wouldn't be able to fight for so long and he needed to make money.
Right.
You also have to think about stuff like that when you're fighting. Like you can't just
let
yourself go out or you can't just get bombed in the face and think that that's going to be acceptable if you want to make it a career.
Yeah. I mean, you get a literal suspension from the state. Like, I love that. I made a post about that recently because...
About Serb.
Yeah, dude. And I appreciate Serb for that, man. Like, that's a huge win for Serb. And for the state of Pennsylvania, for the sport of mixed martial arts, like I wrote about it as well. Like Pat Fryermuth got knocked out cold and was in talks to play. They eventually did. Like he didn't play the following week. He had a week off and then came back 2 weeks later. But like that's still probably too soon, man. Like
concussion protocol at the collegiate level wouldn't even let you get back that fast. You're taking tests for like the first 10 days, and then they're making a decision on if you can play in that third game, maybe. So
there's a lot of learning. I feel like we're going to look back in 50 years and be like, oof, like we messed that one up, guys. Like, so we sent some guys out there. I mean, Tua obviously being the most obvious, like recognizable, notable example of late. Like that was just terrifying. That's exactly what you don't want to see.
And as much as people want to say that it's like both on Tua and the medical staff, like you have to put more of that in the medical staff because if that's your position is to give advice to these athletes, and that's what you have to do is give them proper advice because an athlete's going to be an athlete.
Yep.
Fighter's going to be a fighter.
Yep.
Like
they're good to go. They're going to tell you they're good to go.
If I'm hurt, you know what I mean, but it's not something bad, I'm going to get into the cage. Like no fighter's healthy getting out there. Like when I played football, like you're never 100%, especially halfway going through the season and stuff like that. Like your body's banged up. You're going to want to get back on the field, take that next play, even if like everything your body's telling you like you're messed up. You need to go to the sideline. An athlete's going to be an athlete. And I know there has to be some on Tua as well and other guys like to monitor themselves. But as far as like the professionals, like I think that they got to do a better job with that because they also know that an athlete's going to be an athlete.
I totally agree. And I think I heard Daniel Cormier talk about it one time, and it was a really good way to put it. He gave this speech about, are you hurt or are you injured? There's a difference between being hurt and being injured. So you need to know when you're injured, because at that point, you're just hurting yourself. Like, there's no sense in pushing through a legitimate injury. You're doing yourself a disservice. Now, if you're just hurt and, like, you can gut it out, you can heart it out, like, by all means, be the athlete. But, yeah, man, it's an interesting discussion. I'm glad that you're so well-versed. I had no idea you wrote a 16-page paper on the topic.
Yeah, you know, it was something that I was interested at the time. It was around that time, what was that? The Concussion, the movie. Will Smith was based around the Pittsburgh Steelers all the time.
Mike Webster.
And I remember watching that movie, and it was during the semester I had that class, and then a couple weeks later, by the time we got to that, I was like, well, just watched the movie, got some information on it. I am currently a football player, it like, intrigues me, because at that point in time, I'm still wanting to make it to CFL, Arena, NFL if I'm lucky, or something like that. Like you're still grinding towards football dreams. So when you're interested in something like that, I really want to take a look into it because like it's your brain health. And some people, that compete are like, oh, it's whatever, I'll deal with it when I have to deal with it. But if you, can acknowledge it at a younger age, maybe change the way you play the game, the sport, you know what I mean? Right. It can really help preserve you in those longer years when like the hard work, the money you get, the legacy you leave, that's a time for you to enjoy it. And it's like your whole life went into that. And now you're kind of like in the floating lands where you don't even know where you're at half the time, and that's a scary thing.
It's awful, man. It really is terrifying to think of. I'm glad you're up on it, man. I know like Isaac and everybody you're training with, I'm sure takes care of you guys when those kind of things happen. So good to know you're in good hands, man, because you're obviously a guy that has a ton of potential. Like we're excited whether it's grappling, boxing, MMA, whatever it is. Like, we're going to support you in your journey, man. You're an exciting piece of the Pittsburgh MMA puzzle right now, for sure. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming in. I hope you like the studio. And
I love it, man. I do want to say on the podcast that this is a very beautiful setup.
Thanks,
I really
man.
like it, man.
Thanks, dude. We'll get some more. Yeah. Get some more of your guys in here, man. Keep the. It's hard for me not to say Fat Factory now because we were talking about that.
The challenge.
Yeah. Get some more Matt Factory.
Introducing
guys in
out
here.
of the Fat Factory.
Out of the Fat Factory. Yeah. But that's good, man. I'm glad you could come in, after work, like a G, just strolled in right after work and do an awesome discussion.
It never ends.
For sure, man. Well, we definitely appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you back in there. Maybe on commentary, at least.
Yeah,
we'll get you back in there for sure. December? You want to do a fight in December?
Oh, I'd love
Make
to
it
do
official
that.
right now?
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. So I won't bet a fight then, obviously. But
that's why I said it.
I'm gonna be there either which way. I'm at every
You're
fight,
always there regardless. I think you actually bought a ticket for the last one, didn't you?
My fiance.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. I was gonna sneak her in, but
nah, man, we see, and that's another perfect example of like me telling you to go support Bobby Murda for a different promotion. Like, go do that. You buying a ticket for your fiance is a great point. Like, I don't know if I should even say this on the air because I don't want Ryan to get heat for it, but like, we all buy tickets to this. Like, obviously, I don't buy a ticket to the show with the lanyard and everything now, but like for my family and my wife, like we buy their tickets still. That's how local MMA survives and thrives. Like we can't just let everybody who wants a free ticket.
Yeah, and I want to, you know what I mean.
So like that mentality means a lot. But we get guys all the time, as I'm sure you can imagine. Oh, can you get my cousin in, my girlfriend in? Can you get them in? It's like there are tickets available. They can get in if they buy one.
If you want to keep the promotion alive, like it has to be.
Do you want us to have fights, or do you want to just like have a party and then this is our last show?
Parking lot fight,
right?
What I mean? Like,
exactly.
Since everyone's coming in for free, we'll just move it out to the parking lot.
Exactly. Which business, man? That's how it's got to be for now. 100%. Like someday, obviously, we want to grow to the point where we can comp more tickets. That would be great.
Yeah.
Not there yet, but we're getting there, brother. Thanks to people like you, a lot of your Matt Factory teammates. So let's do it, man.
Love the support.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, brother.
No doubt, brother. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, play the music. We don't have music, but play it.